A rich man ignored the beggar until his son stopped, looked back and said, "Dad, that's Mom." The city did what it always did, moved fast, looked ahead, and forgot anyone who slowed it down. Luxury cars slid through the street like quiet predators, their windows tinted, their passengers sealed off from the world. On the sidewalk, people flowed in the opposite direction, eyes glued to screens or fixed on distant goals. And near the marble steps of a gleaming corporate tower, a woman sat on the cold pavement, wrapped in layers of torn fabric, her presence treated like a crack in the scenery, noticed but never acknowledged. She held a paper cup with shaking hands. It was nearly empty, but she still whispered thank yous to no one in particular, as if gratitude itself might keep her alive. Her hair, once dark and full, now fell in thin, uneven strands around her face. Dirt clung to her skin, but beneath it was a tired dignity that hadn't quite died. She didn't beg loudly. She had learned that loud begging invited cruelty. Instead, she sat silently, eyes lowered, hoping for mercy she no longer expected. A black luxury SUV pulled up at the curb. The driver jumped out first, opening the rear door with practiced urgency. Out stepped Adrian Hale, one of the wealthiest men in the city. His tailored coat hung perfectly on his shoulders. His watch cost more than most people's annual rent. And his expression carried the permanent sharpness of someone who believed time was too valuable to waste on anything inconvenient. Beside him emerged his son, Ethan, 10 years old, neatly dressed, his small hand slipping automatically into his father's. "Come on," Adrian said briskly, already walking toward the building. "We're late." Ethan followed, but his eyes wandered. Unlike his father, he noticed things. He noticed the way the wind cut through the street, how the sun reflected off glass towers, and how the woman on the ground flinched when shadows passed over her. As they approached, the woman lifted her cup slightly, not daring to look directly at them. Adrian didn't slow down. He stepped around her as if she were a pothole. No glance, no pause, no thought spared. Ethan hesitated. "Dad," he murmured, his grip tightening. Adrian tugged his hand. "Don't look, keep walking." But Ethan did look. He really looked at the woman's face, at the faint scar near her eyebrow, at the way her lips trembled, not from the cold alone, but from something deeper, something like shame mixed with exhaustion. And then something in Ethan's chest twisted sharply, as if a memory he didn't fully understand had been struck awake. The woman finally looked up. For a fraction of a second, her eyes met Ethan's. They widened, not in hope, not in fear, but in shock so raw it stole her breath. Her hand dropped, the cup rolling onto its side. Ethan stopped walking. The noise of the city blurred around him. His heart pounded loudly in his ears as images, half formed, half forgotten, flickered through his mind, a softer voice singing at night. Warm arms holding him when he cried. A face from dreams he was told were just imagination. "Ethan!" Adrian snapped, turning back, irritation flaring. "What are you doing?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He was staring at the woman now, fully, openly. His eyes filled with confusion, then certainty that scared him. Slowly, deliberately, he pulled his hand free from his father's grasp. Adrian frowned. "Ethan, this is not Dad," the boy said, his voice shaking but loud enough to cut through the street noise. He pointed back at the woman, who had gone deathly still. That's Mom." The words landed like an explosion in silence. Adrian's breath caught. The world seemed to tilt, the polished certainty of his life cracking in a way it never had before. Behind them, the woman's eyes filled with tears she didn't wipe away, as if afraid any movement might shatter the moment. And for the first time in years, Adrian Hale turned back towards someone he had already decided didn't matter, only to realize his entire past might be sitting on the cold ground behind him. But how could that be true? And what secret had been buried long enough to turn a mother into a beggar? Adrian didn't move at first. He stood there, frozen between the glass doors of his empire and the cracked pavement where the woman sat. The city rushed on around them, unaware that time had split open for 3 people on a crowded sidewalk. His mind rejected Ethan's words instantly. dismissed them as a child's imagination, a mistake born from pity. And yet his chest tightened in a way logic couldn't explain. "That's impossible," Adrian said finally, his voice sharp, controlled. He turned fully now, eyes narrowing as they landed on the woman. He took her in quickly, clinically, ragged clothes, hollow cheeks, trembling hands. Nothing about her fit the memory he had locked away. "Your mother is gone," he said, more to himself than to Ethan. "We talked about this." Ethan shook his head. "No, Dad, I remember her. She used to sing to me when I couldn't sleep." His voice cracked. "She has the same scar, right here." He touched his own eyebrow, mirroring the faint mark on the woman's face. The woman swallowed hard. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Tears slid silently down her cheeks, carving clean paths through the grime. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times in her mind, running into Adrian by chance, seeing Ethan from a distance, but never like this, never exposed, never powerless. "Ethan," Adrian said firmly, kneeling to meet his son's eyes, "this woman is sick or confused. You're tired. Let's go inside." "Please," the woman whispered then, her voice barely alive. "Just let me look at him." That voice, it struck Adrian like a hand around his throat. Not the weakness of it, but the tone, the familiar softness buried beneath the ruin, a sound from another life, from a time when he hadn't been rich, when ambition hadn't yet swallowed everything else whole. Memories, long buried, began to claw their way back. There had been a small apartment once, peeling paint, cheap furniture, laughter that came easily. Her name was Lena. She believed in him when he was nothing but potential and promises. She had stood beside him through sleepless nights and failed ventures, through the months when success felt like a cruel joke. When Ethan was born, she had glowed with a joy that terrified him, because it made him feel responsible for more than just himself. And then things changed. The money came, the opportunities, the pressure. Adrian convinced himself that emotion was a distraction, that love made people weak. He told Lena he needed space to focus. Temporary, he said. Strategic, he said. When she begged him not to shut her out, he accused her of holding him back, of being small-minded, of not understanding the future he was building. The last argument burned brightest in his memory. He had left that night without looking back. Days later, his lawyers told him she had signed the papers. Custody transferred, no contact, and when he asked where she had gone, the answer came clean and final. She'd disappeared. No address, no trace. Adrian accepted it as relief until now. "Dad," Ethan said softly, pulling him back to the present. "Why is Mom crying?" Adrian stood slowly. His heartbeat roared in his ears. The woman, Lena, clutched the edge of her coat like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Years of silence pressed between them, heavy with misunderstanding, pride, and pain. "If you're really her," Adrian said quietly, dangerously, "then where have you been all these years?" Lena closed her eyes as if bracing herself for impact. When she opened them again, there was no anger left, only exhaustion. "You never asked," she said. A gust of wind swept down the street, scattering paper and dust, lifting the corner of her coat to reveal hospital bands still clinging to her wrist, old, faded, but unmistakable. Adrian's gaze dropped to them, his certainty finally cracking, and for the first time, a terrible question formed in his mind. What had she survived alone, while he was building everything else? The silence that followed Lena's words was heavier than any argument Adrian had ever won. It pressed against his ears, his chest, his sense of self. He noticed things now that his wealth had long trained him to ignore. The way people slowed to stare, the way security guards at the building's entrance watched with thinly disguised disgust, the way Lena shrank under that attention, as if she had learned that being seen often hurt more than being ignored. One of the guards stepped forward. "Sir, do you want us to move her along?" His tone was polite, professional, and cruel in its efficiency. Lena flinched before Adrian could answer. Her shoulders curled inward, instinctively protective, as though humiliation had visited her so often it no longer needed an invitation. "No," Ethan said suddenly, his small body shifting in front of her. She didn't do anything wrong. The guard hesitated, glancing at Adrian for approval. Adrian opened his mouth, to agree, to end the scene, to restore order, but the words didn't come. Instead, he saw Lena's hands again, red and cracked from cold, the hospital bands rubbing against her skin like proof of battles she hadn't chosen. He waved the guard back with a stiff motion. "It's fine," he said. "Give us a moment." The guard stepped away, though his eyes stayed hard. Lena lowered herself back onto the pavement, her strength clearly failing. She didn't want to sit, but standing had begun to feel impossible. People passed by again, relieved the spectacle was fading. Coins clinked as someone tossed change near her feet, not to help, but to erase discomfort. Ethan knelt beside her. "Are you sick?" he asked, innocence cutting sharper than accusation. Lena tried to smile. It came out broken. "Sometimes," she said, "but I'm still here." Adrian watched the interaction with something dangerously close to panic. This was not how it was supposed to go. He had imagined, if he ever imagined her at all, a dramatic confrontation, anger, blame, maybe tears. Not this slow, public stripping of dignity. Not his son reaching out to a woman he had allowed the world to forget. "Get up," Adrian said abruptly. "You can't sit here." The words came out harsher than he intended, but they landed exactly as they always had, with power. Lena's face drained of what little color remained. She nodded quickly, scrambling to her feet, her movements clumsy and rushed. "I'm sorry," she said at once. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "I'll go, I always go." Her apology sliced through Ethan. "Why are you saying sorry?" he asked, turning to his father. "She's my mom." Adrian clenched his jaw. "Ethan, this is complicated." "What's complicated about being hungry?" Ethan shot back, pointing at Lena's empty cup. The question hung there unanswered because there was no acceptable response. Adrian reached into his coat, pulling out his wallet. He extracted several bills and held them out, not looking at her face. "Here. Take this. Go somewhere warm. We'll talk later." Lena stared at the money like it was a foreign object. Slowly, she shook her head. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity," Adrian said tightly. "It's help." "No," she whispered. "It's silence." It always was. Her refusal sparked irritation, then something ugly. Embarrassment. People were watching again. A rich man, publicly rejected by a beggar. Adrian felt his control slipping, and with it, the image he had spent a lifetime perfecting. "Don't do this," he muttered. "You're making a scene." Lena's eyes hardened, not with anger, but with a deep, wounded resolve. "No," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "You did that when you walked away. I just lived with it." She turned slightly toward Ethan, memorizing his face like it might disappear again. Her hand lifted, then stopped inches away, afraid to touch. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "Not for one day." Ethan reached out and took her hand himself. The contact broke. Something in Adrian, the guard returned, less patient now. "Sir, we really need to keep the entrance clear." Adrian looked from the guard to Lena, to his son standing between two worlds. He realized with a cold certainty that walking away now would cost him more than any business deal ever could. But staying would mean facing the damage he had caused. And as Lena swayed slightly, nearly collapsing, Adrian understood this was no longer about recognition or pride. It was about survival. He took a step forward just as Lena's knees buckled and she collapsed into Ethan's arms. Ethan cried out as Lena collapsed, his small arms straining to hold a body far heavier than it looked. Adrian reacted on instinct, stepping in just in time to catch her before her head hit the pavement. For a brief, terrifying second, she was weightless in his arms, fragile in a way that unsettled him more than anger ever had. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted. Adrian nodded sharply at the guard. "Now." As they waited, Adrian lowered Lena onto his coat, pressing it beneath her like an offering far too late. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Up close, the damage was undeniable, the sunken cheeks, faint yellowing of her skin, the way her bones seemed too close to the surface. This wasn't a temporary fall, this was years of being worn down. Ethan knelt beside her, tears streaking his face. "Mom, please wake up," he whispered, gripping her hand with desperate strength. Lena's eyelids fluttered. "Ethan," she breathed, as if saying his name anchored her to the world. Her eyes found Adrian then, unfocused but aware. "Don't take him away," she murmured. "He's all I ever had." The words struck Adrian like a confession and an accusation all at once. The ambulance arrived in a blur of sirens and motion. Paramedics worked quickly, lifting Lena onto a stretcher. As they moved her sleeve aside, more hospital bands slid down her wrist. Dates stacked upon dates. Adrian caught glimpses of faded ink, ER visits, shelters, clinics, a life reduced to emergency stops, malnutrition. Dehydration, one paramedic said quietly, looks chronic. Adrian swallowed hard. At the hospital, time stretched strangely, bright lights, the smell of antiseptic. Adrian sat rigid in a plastic chair, his expensive suit now wrinkled, stained with street dust. Ethan sat pressed against him, unusually quiet, his head resting against his father's arm like he was afraid to let go. Hours passed before a doctor approached. "She's stable for now," the doctor said, "but she's been through a lot. Prolonged homelessness, untreated illness, emotional trauma. Can we see her?" Ethan asked immediately. The doctor nodded, briefly. Lena lay pale against white sheets, machines humming softly around her. She looked smaller than ever. When her eyes opened and found Ethan standing there, a faint smile curved her lips. "You got so big," she whispered. Ethan nodded, tears falling freely now. "I thought you were gone forever." Lena closed her eyes. "So did I," she said. Adrian stood at the foot of the bed, hands clenched. "Why didn't you come back?" He asked the question rough, unpolished. "Why didn't you fight me?" Lena turned her head slowly. "I did," she said, "but not in ways that mattered to you." Her voice grew steadier as she spoke, like a dam finally cracking. After Adrian left, the money stopped. The lawyers stopped answering calls. She tried working, but childcare was impossible without support. One illness became many. Medical bills piled up. When she missed a court date, because she was hospitalized, custody was finalized without her. She searched for Ethan until shelters closed their doors to her, until hope became a luxury she couldn't afford. "I stood outside your office once," she whispered, "just like today. I saw you walk past me. You didn't recognize me then either." Adrian's breath hitched. "I learned," Lena continued, "that the world is very kind to men who are winning, and very cruel to women who fall." Silence swallowed the room. Ethan climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed, laying his head near her shoulder. Lena lifted her hand weakly, resting it on his hair like she'd done a lifetime ago. Outside the room, Adrian leaned against the wall, his reflection staring back at him in the glass. Older, shaken, stripped of certainty. For the first time, he wondered if everything he had built was standing on a foundation of abandonment. The doctor approached again. "She'll need long-term care. Stability. A place to recover." Adrian nodded slowly, a decision forming that scared him more than risk ever had. Because helping Lena now wouldn't just mean giving money. It would mean reopening a life he had erased. And as he looked back through the glass at his son, curled protectively around his mother, Adrian realized there was no version of the future that didn't include the past he tried to bury. But whether Lena would ever forgive him, that was something no amount of wealth could buy. Morning light filtered through the hospital blinds, pale and cautious, as if even the sun wasn't sure it was welcome. Adrian hadn't slept. He sat in the same chair he'd claimed the night before, jacket folded over his arm, watching the steady rise and fall of Lena's chest. Every beep of the monitor felt like a reminder. She was here, but barely, and that fact alone accused him. Ethan slept curled beside her, fingers knotted into the sheet as though letting go might make her disappear again. Lena woke slowly. When her eyes opened, confusion flickered first. Then memory rushed back, and with it, pain. She noticed Adrian immediately. He looked smaller in the harsh hospital light, less like the untouchable man from billboards and business magazines, more like someone finally caught by his own reflection. "You stayed," she said quietly. Yes, Adrian replied. I didn't know where else to be. Lena studied him for a long moment, then looked at Ethan. You should go to school, she said gently. I don't want to, Ethan protested. I know, she smiled faintly, but you should. I'll still be here when you come back. Reluctantly, Ethan left with a nurse, glancing back over his shoulder until the door closed. The room felt heavier without him. Adrian exhaled. Tell me everything, he said, please. No lawyers, no defenses. Lena nodded slowly. You remember the night you left? He did. Every detail. I was already sick. She continued. The doctors thought it was stress at first. Then it got worse. I tried to tell you, but you were always gone. She swallowed. When you took Ethan, I lost the will to fight. I didn't think I deserved to win anymore. Adrian looked down, shame tightening his chest. There's more, Lena said. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached toward the bedside drawer. She pulled out a folded envelope, yellowed at the edges. I carried this for years. She handed it to him. Adrian unfolded the paper carefully. Inside was a medical report. His eyes skimmed it once. Then again, slower this time, the words blurred. Complications from untreated illness. Prognosis. Limited life expectancy without consistent care. The date on the report was from years ago. This was written after you left, Lena said softly. They told me I might not live long. I tried to find you then. By the time I did, you were already someone else. Adrian's hand shook. Why didn't you send this to me? I did, she replied. I sent letters. I left messages. Your assistant said you were unavailable. Eventually, I stopped trying. Adrian pressed the paper to his chest like it might anchor him. I didn't know. He whispered. Lena met his eyes. That's the worst part. She said, you never knew. And I needed you to. A knock interrupted them. A doctor entered holding a chart. MS Lena, she said gently. There's something else we need to discuss. Adrian's pulse quickened. The doctor continued. Your condition isn't just from exposure and malnutrition. There's an underlying autoimmune disorder. It's manageable, but only if treated consistently. Without stability, she didn't finish the sentence. Adrian didn't hesitate. She'll have stability, he said firmly. I'll make sure of it. Lena looked at him, startled. Adrian, I don't care what it takes, he said. Doctors. Housing, time, I owe you that. Lena's eyes filled, but her voice remained cautious. This can't be about guilt. It's not, he said, though guilt was clawing at him anyway. It's about truth. And Ethan, at the mention of their son, Lena's resistance softened. He deserves better than what we gave him, she said. Yes, Adrian agreed, and so do you. Later that afternoon, Ethan returned, bursting into the room with nervous energy. The nurse said Mom might get better. He said, hopefully. Lena smiled. I might, she said, with help. Ethan looked between his parents. Does that mean we can be together? The question hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. Adrian opened his mouth to answer, but before he could, Lena gently shook her head. We'll see, she said. Healing doesn't happen all at once. Adrian understood then that the twist he feared wasn't losing Lena again. It was realizing that saving her wouldn't erase what he had done, and redemption, if it came at all, would demand patience he'd never learned. Recovery did not come quietly. Lena was discharged into a private rehabilitation facility overlooking the river. Clean, calm, far removed from the streets that had nearly ended her life, Adrian arranged everything without hesitation. The doctors, the treatments, the therapists who spoke gently and listened carefully. To the outside world, it looked like generosity. To Adrian, it felt like repayment on a debt that could never truly be settled. But Lena did not move through this new world easily. The bed was too soft, the silence too complete. At night, she woke gasping, her body bracing for cold concrete and shouting voices that never came. Nurses noticed how she flinched when doors closed too loudly, how she hid food in napkins without realizing she was doing it. Survival had rewired her. Ethan visited every day after school. He would sit on the edge of her bed and talk about small things, classmates, homework, the way the river looked silver in the evening. Lena listened with the fierce attention of someone afraid each word might be taken back. When he laughed, she smiled. When he left, she cried quietly into her pillow. Adrian watched it all from the margins. He tried to be helpful without being invasive, present without controlling. It was harder than any negotiation he'd ever led. Lena thanked him for what he provided, but gratitude did not equal trust, not yet. One afternoon, tension finally broke the fragile calm. A social worker arrived unannounced, file in hand. She spoke kindly, professionally, but her words carried weight. Given MS. Lena's history, she said, there are concerns about prolonged unsupervised contact with the child until she's fully stabilized. Ethan stiffened. You're not taking me away, he said, panic flashing across his face. Lena's hands began to shake. Adrian stepped forward. This is unnecessary, he said sharply. She's improving. The social worker met his gaze. I understand your position, Mr. Hale, but this isn't about money or influence. It's about safety. The word cut deeply. Lena stood slowly, her legs unsteady but her voice firm. I won't fight him again, she said, tears welling. I won't put Ethan through that. Ethan looked at her, devastated. Mom, please. She knelt in front of him despite the ache in her bones. Listen to me, she said softly. Loving you sometimes means stepping back until I can stand strong. Adrian felt something tear open inside him. This was the cost, not checks or apologies, but restraint. After the social worker left, silence filled the room. Ethan buried his face in Adrian's coat. Sobbing, Adrian held him tightly, his own eyes burning. That night, Adrian made a decision that shocked his board, his lawyers, and the media. He stepped down as CEO. The announcement exploded across headlines. Speculation ran wild. Health issues, scandals, secret deals. Adrian said nothing publicly. Privately, he moved into a smaller home near the facility, rearranged his life around school schedules and therapy appointments. When Lena heard, she confronted him. You don't have to destroy your life for me, she said. I'm not destroying it. Adrian replied, I'm finally living it. She searched his face for calculation and found none. Weeks passed. Lena grew stronger. The fear in her eyes softened. The doctors smiled more. One afternoon, she walked unaided along the river path, Ethan's hand in hers, Adrian a few steps behind, letting them have their space. Still, one final test remained. A custody review loomed, formal, cold, decisive. Lena knew the odds. Adrian knew the power he held. The night before the hearing, Lena knocked on Adrian's door. If you use your influence tomorrow, she said quietly, I'll walk away. I need to know Ethan is choosing me, not being handed to me. Adrian didn't answer immediately. He nodded once. I understand. As the door closed, Adrian sat alone in the dark, facing the hardest challenge of his life. To win back his family, he would have to risk losing control, and in that surrender, everything hung in the balance. The courtroom was smaller than Adrian expected. No marble columns, no dramatic echo. Just pale walls, wooden benches, and the quiet hum of lives waiting to be judged. Lena sat with her hands folded in her lap, shoulders straight despite the fear trying to pull her inward. She wore a simple dress the nurses had helped her choose. Nothing expensive, nothing borrowed from Adrian's world. She wanted to stand there as herself. Ethan sat between them, feet dangling, eyes darting from one parent to the other. The judge listened patiently as reports were read aloud, medical updates, psychological evaluations, progress notes from therapists who spoke of trauma, resilience, and recovery. Lena answered every question honestly, her voice steady even when it shook. She did not hide the years she'd lost. She did not exaggerate her strength. When it was Adrian's turn, he stood slowly. I won't speak as a billionaire, he said quietly, or as a man with resources. I'll speak as a father who failed. A murmur passed through the room. I confused ambition with responsibility. Adrian continued, and I taught my son, without meaning to, that success mattered more than people. Lena paid the price for that mistake. So did Ethan. He looked at his son then. If this court believes Ethan's safest place is with his mother, I will support that. Not because I'm giving something up, but because I'm finally choosing what's right." Lena's breath caught. The judge turned to Ethan. "Do you understand why you're here today?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." "And do you know who you want to live with?" Ethan looked at Lena, then at Adrian, then back at Lena. "I want my mom," he said, "but I want my dad too." The judge smiled faintly. That's usually the right answer. The ruling came gently, but firmly. Primary custody to Lena, with structured support, shared parenting, and ongoing monitoring. Stability, accountability, hope. Lena's knees nearly gave out. Outside the courthouse, the sky was wide and blue, like a promise that hadn't been broken yet. Ethan ran ahead, laughing, free in a way he hadn't been in years. Lena turned to Adrian. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes," he replied. "I did." Months passed. Lena moved into a small home near the river, not grand, not temporary, home. She cooked again. She slept through the night. She laughed, real laughter that surprised her when it came. Ethan filled the walls with drawings. Adrian came for dinner on Sundays, sometimes awkward, sometimes quiet, always present. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan sat between them on the porch steps. "Dad," he asked, "why did you ignore Mom that day?" Adrian didn't look away, "Because I thought looking forward was the same as moving on," he said. "I was wrong." Ethan nodded, satisfied. Lena watched Adrian carefully, not as the man he used to be, but as the man he was becoming. Some nights the past still hurt. Some wounds still ached. Healing, she learned, didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing differently when the moment came again, and it had. Years later, Adrian would pass that same corporate tower on foot. Sometimes he would pause where Lena once sat, remembering the woman the world had made invisible, and the child who refused to look away because it wasn't money that saved them. It was recognition, it was accountability, it was love spoken too late, but acted on in time, and the moral, written quietly between their lives, was simple and unbreakable. Never ignore a soul on the ground because the past you abandoned may be the future that saves you.